Hello, this is Annie. I'm back with another The Sims 4 to The Sims 2 recreation speed build. And this time I am recreating one of Harrie's beautiful buildings. This is the Henford Farmhouse. And I'm starting right off the bat with mapping out where everything is supposed to go. And as you can tell, I had issues to begin with the foundations, because when I placed them down, they insisted on having these large holes in them. And later I found out that it was that little part of fence that I just removed that was causing that issue. So I have never encountered that before trying out this build. And once I had removed that, I didn't have any issues. So if you ever see that, that's probably why. So this is a pretty deceptively large build, because when I looked at it on Harrie's video, I just thought that, oh, that's a cute house. But then I realized that, oh my god, the lot is huge. So this took me quite a while to build, and a lot of trial and error. But yeah, that's part of the reason why I want to make this series, to learn new stuff about building in The Sims 2 from watching other people's building in The Sims 4. So fair enough. This was definitely a challenge. So one of the biggest challenges was figuring out how to recreate the second floor, because there were a lot of interesting things done with that roof and the roof above the extension, the glassed-in veranda part. And Harrie said in her video that it was made so that the Sims would be able to actually walk out onto that part of roof. So I made sure that they would be able to do that in my build as well. So this is actually the stage that I used. I tried to do something strange with the constrained floor elevation sheet at first, but that didn't work out. And I also tried to fiddle around with the roof, but I ended up just doing a quite normal roof. And these dormers were really difficult. But I remember the trick that I saw from watching Tea Addict's stream, one of her building streams, and that was that if you remove the wall, turn on move objects on, place down the windows, and then draw the wall back, you will be able to actually see through the windows. That was a comment that one of her viewers had. And yeah, that actually worked out really, really well for me as well. I use custom walls that are unleveled, which is why I'm able to do that even though they are lowered. So in order to make dormers like that, I think that you will have to have that particular wall tool. And it can be easily installed with the Scriptorium by Numenor. So I warmly recommend getting that if you don't have it already. And here I'm picking out the front door. I didn't have one that had a nice decoration above it, but I found one that I could place from buy mode. And then I tried to find good circular windows, which of course I couldn't find, so I made them square ones instead. And I also made sure to put them on the sides of the roof. And that trick that I just did there, that made the glass appear again, is a trick I learned from Cozy Pixels, from one of her building videos. And that is if you try to place down a window on a part of roof that won't let you see through it, then you can change the angle of the roof to a higher one. And then once you can see through the window, you can change it back to a lower angle again. So that's a nice trick as well. And here I'm creating the glassed-in veranda. I just love the looks of this. That was one of the things that I really loved about Harrie's build and what drew my attention to it, because it looked like something that I'd seen on Escape to the Country, if you've ever seen that TV program. So it looks like an old house that has been renovated recently to have a more modern part. And yeah, I really, really love that. So the more old part of the house have these double walls that make them look a lot thicker. And that's the best way I could recreate it in The Sims 2, knowing what I know at least. But in The Sims 4, it was sort of very, very high half walls, I'm guessing. They almost reached the top, but they weren't closed at the very top, so there was a gap between the wall and the roof. I'm not sure if that's something you would see in real life or not. I've certainly never seen that, but it's interesting, definitely. And it really made the house look very unique. So I just ended up making it double walls for my build. And here I am placing down the driveway, and I'm using Cricket's Rural Charm roads for this build because I thought it fit in a lot better than the ones I usually use. But I found out that if you try to remove the sidewalk, the driveway will twist to the right. And after doing some trial and error, I found out that if you keep the tiles to the very right and the very left on the opposite side of the road, that issue will not appear. So what I did was that I placed down some stones and some greenery, bushes and things like that to mask the tiles because I couldn't change them either, apparently. I couldn't make them see-through or anything like that. So yeah, that was an interesting issue, but if you ever have that issue, that's how you solve it. And yeah, this was one of the most fun things for me because I really liked the looks of that gate leading up to the house. And I actually think that I managed to recreate it quite well from just putting things together that I had. And yeah, I liked how it turned out. And this is also something that I decided to change in my build because I want things to be usable. And it just rubbed me the wrong way to put down cars and knowing that I wouldn't be able to have the Sims use them. So I created this extended driveway up towards the farm part with the truck as well. So the truck I just placed off-grid, so that won't be usable, but I didn't want it to be really. And I will actually also exchange that for a car statue later because I wanted to have the gardener's truck. I think that is also available if you want to have it as a car, but well, I just felt like that was unnecessary for me this time. And this was one of my favorite parts about this build, the pond. I really, really enjoy how this looks in The Sims 2, and a huge part of that is the water mod that I use. It's just so beautiful. And yeah, there's a lot of lavender in this build by Harrie, and I found out that I had a lot of those. Sometimes I don't even know what I have in my downloads folder by now. I have so much custom content, but yeah, turns out that I had quite a lot of lavender, so I used that, and I really liked how it turned out. In the previous builds that I have done, the conversions from The Sims 4, that is, I have pointed out that a lot of the builders usually place down the same 5 or 6 plants all around the house, which makes things very uniform but not that realistic. But this is actually a build that didn't do that, and that was pretty nice, I think. I personally prefer the looks of this, even though there were a lot of lavender used. I think that only tied it all together because there were a lot of different plants all around the house and different sceneries. So yeah, I really appreciated that. And I also like how natural and curved and I don't know, organic, I guess, the shapes are in this enclosed entrance part of the garden. So it really makes it look unique and realistic, and I personally appreciate that style a lot. So here I'm just going all out with the plants, placing down a lot of them and different recolors. I really like how the same plant can look so different if you just recolor it, especially if it's custom content, because they usually change leaves and things like that as well. So yeah, I really like that. And I decided to go for these stairs instead, because I thought they just looked a bit more like they fit together with the build. And then I realized that I wanted to lower that little decorative thing above the door, but I couldn't do that in a good way with using an OMSP or anything like that on the same level. So I actually went down below that level onto the foundation instead, and so sort of eyeballed where I wanted it. So if you go down to foundation level, or well, ground level, that is, you will actually see it floating in there, which isn't ideal, but that was the way that I figured how to do it this time. And then there's a lot of beautiful climbing plants all over the house, a lot of ivy and things like that. And I really enjoy how this makes the building look, because things can get pretty flat if they're just one color all around, and especially if there's some part of the building that doesn't have a lot of windows. So adding these kinds of climbing plants really adds a lot to the whole feel of the building, really. So even though it's very tedious to put down, it's so pretty once it's done. And here I realized that, oh no, there's actually dormers at the front of the house as well. So I had to redo some things. And yeah, now that I have learned this trick, it was quite quick work, but it's still annoying to have to turn on the constrained floor elevation sheet again and do all that. But yeah, I managed it in the end. And then I considered using decorative chimneys for the rooftop, but then I realized that they wouldn't look good together with a real chimney, because I didn't have any matching colors for it. So I actually put down fireplaces on the attic part of the build. Since it's not used, that doesn't really pose a problem. So there'll just be random fireplaces up there. And then I'm continuing with the beautiful ivy and climbing plants there. I actually had some that had purple flowers, I guess it is. So that matched quite well, even though the plants in The Sims 4 are a lot bigger, and I think that they're actually fitted to the house, so you can just plop one down. Yeah, I think it looked really good in the end. And here I am doing my best to recreate that, I think, decorative outhouse, or small house. I think outhouse is a toilet, isn't it? Anyway, so I actually created this roof in 3 parts, and a 4 clicks high wall above the one that I lowered with the constrained floor elevation sheet again. But then, of course, I had issues with placing down the windows, because there were parts of the roof, parts of the wall really, showing through. So I started off by just putting down those shutters, but then I didn't like the looks of it from the inside, so I actually found a window that went okay with it, and placed that down. Then I tried to do the same thing for the back and had lots of issues. So I actually didn't put the window down there at all. But I put down a window at the back of that other small house over there. So yeah, those houses are actually completely usable to do whatever you wish with. So I like that. And then I also made these, I think they are houses for cows in The Sims 4. I'm not sure. But since they have a smaller chicken coop, I think that's what it is. So I actually managed to create the roofs quite well. You can't recolor different roofs in the same lot in The Sims 2, unfortunately. So they had to have the same roof color as the main house. But yeah, it worked out, I think, anyway. And I had to fiddle around a bit with the height of that wall as well, because when I had created everything and put the roof up again, I realized that the top of the windows were showing through. So yeah, but that's just part of the fun with building in The Sims 2, I think, all the trial and error and trying to abuse things to make things look the way you want them. And so far, so well, I think. This lot really has a lot of terrain paint, and I am usually very bad at using that. So that's one of the things that I really liked learning about this building, or from this building, that is, because I always try to improve, and I think that using the terrain paint this way really adds a whole lot to the lot, and things tend to get very structured and square if you use the tiles everywhere. So I don't think that this lot has any tiles at all on the grounds. So yeah, it really turned out well, I think. And that trick you saw me do there with the terrain paint is actually putting it down one time with the left click and then removing it again by holding in control. And that way you can try to mess around with how harsh the line is and make some parts of it softer. You will see me do that again with the terrain around the other parts of the lot where the trees are as well, because that grassy part especially needs to be really soft. And as you can see from the crop tiles, or what I should call it, that is extremely harsh. And it's very difficult in The Sims 2 to adjust how harsh the line is, I guess. That's why I usually put it down and then go back and forth, adding it and removing it until I like it, which takes time and probably is one of the reasons why I don't use the terrain paint a lot. But yeah, it's worth it. I really think it is in the end. So here I'm starting on putting down the trees, and adding these plants and trees really transform the lot, I think. It just frames it and adds a lot of realism to it. And yeah, I really enjoy the way that this looks. And just the fact that the trees are casting shadows outside of the lot makes the part of the lot where it ends, it doesn't appear as sharp, and it really removes that line, I think. And there you could also see me do that trick with the terrain paint that I told you about. And here I am actually using a tilted to the side OMSP, 33 degrees, in order to make that climbing plant shift a bit to the side so that it wouldn't cut through the roof. So that's a nice trick, I think. And I actually also put in the snap objects to grid falls cheat here in order to make the ivy be a bit closer to the wall where it's supposed to climb from one side to the other, so that it's not an empty space. But yeah, like I said before, this is very time consuming, putting down all of these different parts, and just the fact that you have to use OMSPs as well. But yeah, definitely looks very, very nice once it's done. And here I used a 22 degrees OMSP in order to make that pitchfork tilt a bit. And there, I think it was a sort of, I'm not sure what it's called in English, but that bit that you put on the back of the tractor when you want to make the the earth, turn it up in preparation for planting stuff. That machine was standing in the corner there, but of course I didn't have anything even remotely similar to that in my game. So I ended up just putting down some ladders and some plants. And I don't know. I think it looked good in the end. And I actually also found a tap. I think it came with seasons actually. So that's not custom content. But yeah, it's a tap for water outside, and I put down a watering can under it as if the water is dripping down into it. And now I have moved on to the patio with the grill, and there's a whole kitchen station out here actually. There's a lot of things that I wouldn't personally have thought of putting down out here, like the frying pan, for example. But I guess it could be used on a grill like this. Yeah, I think that this is something that I would have seen in, if not in real life, then at least in like IKEA catalogs. So yeah, it really looks very beautiful like this. And yeah, if I had a farm, I would certainly want to have an outdoors kitchen. That's for sure. And then I tried to find a good circular table, which of course I couldn't. And that's something that I have noticed that is possible in The Sims 4, but it's not possible in The Sims 2, to my knowledge, is putting down chairs on a diagonal and actually have them be usable with a table. So what you could see in The Sims 4 is having a circular table, for example, with 6 chairs around it. But in The Sims 2, that would only be possible with, 4 chairs, that is. So I decided to go for a rectangular table instead, and that had the correct amount of chairs. And then I moved on to the inside of the house, and I decided to actually put down the staircase on a stage. And the reason for that is that I wanted to maintain only 3 open tiles on the second floor, because, yeah, I think that if I had just had the staircases be 4 tiles or require 4 tiles of empty space above it, then that would have messed up the bathroom later. So yeah, I ended up going with that instead, and I think it turned out quite pretty anyway. It doesn't look exactly the same, of course, but that's as close as I could get it. And then there were a lot of stone all around the building. At first I thought that it would be like the old part of the house and the outside walls having the stone alongside the inside of those walls as well. But it turned out to be a lot more random than that. And I really grew attached to that idea when I thought that that was what it was. So when, if I would change anything to this house, I think it would be interesting to sort of keep the idea that this is a old farm building that has had a modern extension to it. So to have the stone sort of outline where the old building was, and then only have like the modern part of the inside parts, like the not carrying walls, be different. So for example, I really, really liked these walls that I'm playing with right now, because they were actually wooden. And I think that that is something that I would have gone with a lot more if I would have changed anything in this house. And there you could see me actually creating a sort of huge archway using pillars. And the way you can do that is placing the pillars down on a 90 degrees angles OMSP in order to make it horizontal. And here I am trying to find good wallpapers. I think it went okay. I got the right feel for it, at least. And here we actually had a different kind of stone, or it might have even been brick for the fireplace. And I actually like that. That made it feel a bit like that wasn't part of the original building when the stone was picked out, but it was added later. And then I noticed that those pillars cast really strange shadows, like shadows floating in the air. So I actually used the Snap Objects to Grid false sheets to place them where I wanted them so that I didn't have that issue. And yeah, this room is, of course, has that chimney part that I can't remove in The Sims 2. So that looks a little bit different in shape from the room in The Sims 4, but I think it turned out nice anyway. I actually think I prefer that because I can really logically see exactly where the smoke goes when the fireplace is lit. So yeah, that's nice. And I really enjoy this little armchair because it has a separate blanket that you can put on top of it, and it's actually made for that chair, so it looks really nice, and you can adjust it to whatever you want. And then I actually also created a sort of a bouquet of flowers by putting one vase of flowers into a potted plant to add some more, different colors and different plants into it. And I think that it turned out surprisingly well, actually. So I was very happy with that. And working with this room, I realized that it might be a bit different in The Sims 4. I wasn't sure because the part with the outsticking part with the windows, I think that might be 3 tiles in The Sims 4, but in my build it was 4 tiles. So yeah, I don't really mind it though. It still looks really nice. But I think that the house was different from The Sims 4 in that way. And here I'm putting down some small tables next to the sofa and the armchair. And I'm not completely pleased with the ones I picked out, but I think those were the ones that was the closest to matching the Sims 4 build. But I switched them back and forth a couple of times because I couldn't find any that matched exactly. But I think that the coffee table in front of the sofa matched really well, on the other hand. So you win some, you lose some. And here I am placing down kitchen counters, actually, in the living room. And that's not something that I usually do, but it made a lot of sense in this building. I really liked how it feels like it's built in. And here I used some OMSPs that shifts whatever's on it 15 degrees. And well, this was a bit complicated because it would only shift it to the right, but I didn't have any that would shift it to the left. So what I did was that I picked out 2 of them and stacked them together. But the issue then was that the TV became so elevated that I couldn't get it to rest on the counters. So what I had to do was go down to foundation level and put it down there instead. So it looks like it's on this floor, but it's actually not. And the consequence of that is unfortunately that the Sims can't use it. Well, they will try to use it. They will go outside and then they will stand by the foundation and wave their arms that they can't access it. So yeah, I couldn't make that work. But I think that if I would have been able to put it on the left side instead and have it be tilted slightly to the left, and then just have it, well, only using one of them so that it could still be on this floor, I think in theory, it would have been usable. So that might be something to try for future. Or if I ever find an OSMSP that will switch it to the left instead of the right. And here I'm cluttering up all of the little shelves. I really enjoyed how this looked in Harrie's build with all the different shelves and all the clutter. It really looks a lot like something that you would see in real life. I mean, this is a living room that I really can envision like walking into in real life, and I've seen similar buildings where I live as well. So yeah, I really like this. And then I actually remembered to put down curtains this time. Yay for me. And then we move on to the dining room. This building actually has 3 dining tables. And I think that this room is the one that the Sims will prefer to use. Because when I had them have dinner, just using the kitchen later, when I play tested a lot, this was the room that they chose to dine in. So yeah, things might get a bit confusing for the Sims when you have this many dining spots, but Harrie actually said that when she put down the chairs by the island counter, because there's actually also an island with the high chairs, but they are put off-grid and they're not actually put at an island. It's actually just a normal counter. You will see that a bit later. And what that does is that the Sims can't use it to eat at, so they won't even try. And I thought that that was so clever, because I imagine that, say for example that you want to have the Sims only dine outside on the patio in the summer, then I'm guessing that if you just put the chairs at the dining table off-grid, they won't even try to use that table. That is something that that just made my brain go go a bit wild. And yeah, I really want to try that out now. So yeah, I mean, in theory, it should work. Anyway, we're moving on to the kitchen, and I made it black rather than white. And the reason for that is that the counters that I used only had this 2-color style in black. So rather than making it completely white, I thought that this matched a lot better with the style that Harrie had used in her build. And yeah, the appliances became black as well, because I didn't think that it looked right with the gray ones after changing it to black. And then these sort of wishbone chairs, I think is actually the exact same chairs that she used, only converted for The Sims 2. So that was really fun, actually. I enjoyed that. And here I ended up placing down the thing that I found that was the closest, but it really looks nothing like her build. That painting on the wall was the closest thing I could find, so yeah. But it looks okay, I think. And then there was this amazing hanging plant from some sort of rack on the roof. So of course I wanted to recreate that. So I actually used these hanging holders for like pots and things. And then I put down some custom greenery on top of it, and actually some hanging potted plants as well. So yeah, I liked how it turned out. But yeah, I really had to rack my brain trying to come up what to do about that. But I think it worked out. That's one of the things that I really enjoy with these builds, is trying to come up with creative solutions that I wouldn't have even considered without trying to recreate something. So yeah, this really is a challenge, and in a good way, I think. And yeah, it turned out that a lot of the things that was used in the kitchen was actually also used out on the patio. So I just copy-pasted a lot of things here. And then I do the good old trick to put stuff down on the floor in preparation for putting in them up on the shelves. That's a good way to manage your custom content if you have a lot of it. I know that some people are really good with putting things into collections. I am not one of those people, so I always just sit for a long time just browsing all of my stuff and squinting my eyes at the small thumbnails. But yeah, I think it looks nice. this way, and I really enjoy clutter, so it's definitely worth it. And yeah, put down another curtain and some more of these beautiful counters and cabinets. And we're moving on to the office. I realized that, in The Sims 4, you can put down the computer in the middle of the table, it looks like, but in The Sims 2, you have to put it down on the side, unless you have, a custom desk. But I didn't have one of those that matched good enough, so I just moved the door back a little bit, and then I, of course, had to move the door that leads to the outside a bit to the right as well. And yeah, this really made me curse a bit to myself, because there's shutters inside of the room as well, so I had to get some more OMSPs, and I actually used ones that put the thing that you want to elevate below it rather than on it, and that made me able to place the shutters down where I wanted them. And here I'm just adding some pet stuff and things that I missed previously in these rooms. And I really enjoyed the detail that this house was made a bit for having pets as well, because I just think that suits the farm life so well. And when I play tested this lot, I actually added some dogs, and they could use everything, and this is a very good house for having dogs, especially, I think. So yeah, I enjoyed that, and I really enjoyed the detail of adding those pet stuff. And here I am adding some shelves above the toilet. I had the exact same issue this time that I had in the previous build, that there was this small cabinet above the toilet, and I couldn't find anything that even remotely resembled that in my custom content folders or in the game files either, of course. But I'm not sure actually if I have ever seen that in real life either. Like, is that a thing that people do? Put cabinets above the toilet? I guess in cramped spaces that might be clever though, so I guess it makes sense in that way, but it made me a bit confused. But yeah, these shelves worked out well, and well, like I said before, I enjoy using shelves, because that way you can put down exactly what you want and customize to your heart's content. So every build that you make will look a bit different, and every shelf that you put down will have different things on it. So even though it takes time to do it that way, I actually prefer the way it looks once it's done. So. And these rooms were a little bit tricky, because I think that Harrie possibly could cut out some of the building parts of these rooms, like the bathroom and this little hallway. But I think I managed to recreate it somewhat, at least. I was a little bit sick and tired of clutter at this point, so at first I just put some random stuff down, but then I realized that, well, there's a pig and a chicken, and those things quite resemble what was in that room, I think. At least the chicken. I'm not sure about the pig, but I think it was fine. Anyway. And yay, we're moving up to the second floor. So Harrie had this really, really cool, what should I call it? It was like a screen, you could say, behind the bed, and it sort of enclosed the bed together with the side tables. But I don't think I had anything that I could have used, so I just made it this sort of rustic, really heavy-looking wooden bed instead. I think that was good enough for me, at least. And of course, all of the little decorative pillows and blankets that just makes it look lived in and more realistic. And then there was some plants again. There were so many plants in this house. the plants that I put down on top of this wardrobe actually poke through the roof, unfortunately. Thankfully, there's nothing above it, so it's not that noticeable unless you like go down into level where the Sims would be, like into the room and look up. Then you will see that the plant continues through the roof. But yeah, I think that it's not too noticeable. And yeah, the mirrors here really threw me off because they're not shiftable. And I had a really hard time to find OMSPs that would actually carry mirrors. But I did find one that was pretty big and on one tile, and at last I could manage it. But yeah, that was a challenge, let me tell you. And then I have this little, foreroom before the actual bathroom, and I mean, this is just outstanding. Really, really, really cool. I mean, this bathroom is more like a spa. Imagine having this beautiful bathroom in your house. I mean, really, it's just amazing. It's so pretty. The only thing I don't like is that it has wooden floors. I wouldn't have done that, especially beneath the shower. But yeah, it looks nice, and I especially enjoyed this shower part because I got to use this beautiful window. And when I put everything down, I thought that I had to actually add the shower from university, that expansion pack, because the Sims will actually enter it from the front rather than the side. But when I play tested this, it actually turned out that the way that I placed it, the showers were in the way of each other, so they couldn't use it. But when I removed the university shower, they actually just walked through the glass and could use the shower normally, so that was completely unnecessary. But yeah, something else that's very interesting in this room is that both the toilet and this little table is actually pushed into the wall to appear a bit different than it usually is. And I think that that is something that I have seen previously done in the Sims 4 builds, with a lot of bed frames, actually, when the builder wants to have a bed without one. And that actually worked perfectly well in the Sims 2 as well, so I was happy with that. And yeah, the table in the bathroom with the sink on it is also one of those things that I would have never come up with on my own if I hadn't tried to recreate this. So yeah, I really appreciated that, especially. And I realized that I hadn't changed the staircases there either, so I switched things around a bit, and I put in this little room with a washer and dryer, and those are completely decorative conversions from The Sims 4. I know that there are some washing machines and things like that that are actually usable in The Sims 2, but as far as I understand it, The Sims become pretty obsessed with them, unfortunately, so I have not gotten those into my game, but I really like the looks of just having that room, even though I won't use it. And then we move on to this very, very tiny kids' room that I was concerned about because it's so cramped, and I actually also crammed in a desk in here. Later you will see that. But as it turns out, there's no routing issues at all in here. I could hardly believe it. This game just keeps surprising me over and over again. I mean, the bed was usable, the desk was usable, everything just worked perfectly. So yeah, I was very happy with that. In Harrie's build in The Sims 4, there was this really beautiful like canopy, or what I should call it, above the bed. It looked sort of like a tent. I wasn't sure how to recreate that, so I just put up some curtains to make it look a bit more like there's something going on, at least. But yeah, I couldn't recreate that, but I think it worked out anyway. And then I'm cluttering it up with a lot of kids' stuff, making it look nice. And yeah, there's a lot of cute decorative stuff from The Sims 4. But I think that I have a lot of things that match quite well. And this is, of course, one of the base game, or well, I think it might be like free time paintings that I used, and then some custom posters as well. And now we're moving on to the teenagers' room, and like I mentioned, this the shape of this is a bit different, just because I had to put the chimney down there. So I actually don't use the same type of wardrobe as Harrie did, but otherwise I think it's pretty much the same. Oh yeah, I have one table less next to the bed because I just thought that it became too cramped, and I always want the things that I put down to be usable if possible. So yeah, I didn't want to block the way to the wardrobe on the side there. But yeah, there's a huge TV in here, and not much else. I was a bit sad that I had to cover up the windows to the sides of this room because I just think that it would have looked so beautiful with the views and everything. And if I would have recreated this, I might have put in like a master bedroom in there and actually put down a fireplace as well into the room. But it definitely gives off a different feel from what I'm used to. And I think that, I mean, one of the reasons that I'm doing this series is to get out of my comfort zone and try new things. And yeah, that's definitely something new. And it definitely makes the build feel a lot different. A lot more, well, old, I guess. Those thick walls really are something very different from what I'm used to. And here I'm going through just adding in all the lights. And I'm going into night mode, of course, to make sure that I can see how everything turns out. Something that I noticed was that Harrie appears to put down spotlights everywhere at first, and then afterwards she goes through little by little, exchanging those spotlights for other lights if she wants to. So it was a little bit difficult to see exactly what kind of lights were used in all of the rooms, but I think I got it quite similar at least. So I liked how it turned out in the end. And here is the finished product. This took me like a whole week to build, but I'm so happy that I did it. And I really think that it turned out really beautiful and very similar to the building in The Sims 4. I, of course, urge you to go to Harrie's video and watch that as well. And yeah, she really deserves a lot of love for creating this beautiful build. And that was the end of it, so we will be moving on to the before and after pictures. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye.